What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today I get to make a video I never really thought I was going to be able to make. I got rank 1 on the Go Battle League leaderboards live on stream. Now, I have got rank 1 in the past on the leaderboards, but before I was a content creator and before I was a streamer who basically streamed every single battle that I ever did for the last 2 years, it's a lot easier for people who can know your team to be able to beat you, and to climb at the top rank, it takes so long to do. So reaching rank 1 on the leaderboard live on my stream was an accomplishment. Honestly, I never thought I'd be able to do, but I was able to reach it here today with this team. I used Guzzlord, Lapras, and Shadow Galarian Weezing to climb the last couple of ranks here and get as high as possible over the 2900s, nearly reaching Legend as well very early in the season. So let's take a look at the battles and see what this team can do. Alright, let's get right on into the first battle of the day. Guzzlord in the lead against Shadow Dragonite, the battle of the opposing Dragon-type Pokemon. Who is going to win? I know Shadow Dragonite is very squishy. You can see these Dragon Tails are chunking their HP down quite a bit. Unfortunately, they do survive on just a sliver of HP, meaning I don't quite get the knockout. I'll take a couple more Dragon Breaths, and I have to shield this Dragon Claw. With that said, we have a lot of energy right now on our Guzzlord. We see a Registeel come in, a Pokemon honestly I do not have an answer for on our entire team, but because I know that we are able to throw crunches, and it is so incredibly hard for a Registeel to ever farm down a Guzzlord, we should get to 2 crunches here and force them to throw energy. The reason this is so bad for Reggie is because Guzzlord is a very HP-weighted Pokemon. It has over 200 HP, basically 260 I think, which means that they will never fast move us down with a move that only does 1 damage every half second. They're forced into throwing a charge move here. Flash Cannon has been revealed, but at this point, what do I do to try to take out this Pokemon? Likely it's going to be Flash Cannon and Zap Cannon, but I think that Galarian Weezing, despite having to take super effective Flash Cannon damage, is still our best bet. In comes a Brutal Swing. Does this knock them out? No, it draws a shield, but because we're so spammy here, we should be able to get another one and force them to throw energy against us before they can knock us out. In comes another Flash Cannon. We do shield it up here, and we see their final Pokemon is going to be a Jellicent. So at this point, we have a little bit of wiggle room if we can get these Brutal Swings off against this Jellicent and then use our Lapras to potentially sweep this endgame matchup. We should be able to win this game. I can reach a Brutal Swing here right at the last second on CMP as well, which means this will be able to either draw a shield or basically knock out this Jellicent. They do opt to shield the attack, and at this point, now that shields are down, now that there's no energy across the board, my Lapras can set up, go for some side waves, and get to back-to-back Sparkling Aria, 1 against this Jellicent, and then 1 against that Registeel. At this point, even though this is not a great matchup for Lapras, we have so much damage against this Jellicent, we are able to take the win in that match. Alright, next game, we're going to see Guzzlord into Guzzlord, yet another mirror lead with the Dragon types. We're going to see, though, that this Guzzlord is going to try its best to chunk us down, but I am able to go for a Dragon Claw, and potentially, I don't think we CMP'd there, but maybe I could have won CMP. Who is to say? Dragon Claw likely going to draw the shield, and now our opponent is going to overfarm here just a little bit more. I try to catch a charge move, but our opponent ends up, well, I thought they were going to not throw the charge move, saying that they saw what I came in with, but they still throw energy. Crunch does chip us down just a little bit here, and we end up baiting out a Toxapex. Now, this matchup is not great here for our Weezing, but we do still have a shield advantage. We drain some energy from that Guzzlord in the lead matchup, and these Brutal Swings, despite not being stab, are still going to add up over time, and we might be able to swap out after throwing a couple more Brutal Swings here against this Toxapex. In comes the second one. Do they shield this up? I would doubt it at this point. They are getting chipped down, but I'm not going to reach a 4th, so there's no reason for this Toxapex to shield. Brutal Swing will come through, chip them down, though, into a nice side wave down range, and I will at least threaten them to throw energy against our Guzzlord, so they're not at 100 energy against our Lapras, but at this point, Lapras is going to have to put in a lot of work to win this endgame matchup. We have to keep in mind there is still a Guzzlord that has a Dragon Claw on it. That could be a little bit worrisome in the backline, but in comes our opponent's final Pokemon. We see it. It is a Shadow Driftblim, a Pokemon which can debuff us with Icy Wind, but if I ever try to no-shield a move and they land a Shadow Ball, that could be insanely bad for us. Ice Beam does end up getting a shield from our opponent here, and in comes a Charge Attack. This could be a Shadow Ball. I almost certainly know this is an Icy Wind bait, but I do not want to no-shield and lose the game on the spot. In comes that Icy Wind, and they are going to reach a Charge move right before my next Ice Beam. I know, though, this is just an Icy Wind. I have to no-shield this attack because I need to be able to save my shield for that Guzzlord potentially, or that Toxapex later on this game. I clear the debuff here so I can go for a Sparkling Aria to knock out this Driftblim. I do 1 Side Wave. I don't want to take any more fast move pressure that I can do, so I don't want to take that Astonish. Sparkling Aria does knock out this Pokemon. In comes the Toxapex, and at this point, I always have to keep an eye out and see if they ever swap into that Guzzlord. If I see Guzzlord come in, I have to instantly throw the Sparkling Aria to throw the move before they can get a move off into us. We see him come in, I snipe them down with the Sparkling Aria, and this will neutralize all of the energy here. As long as I can Side Wave down the rest of that Toxapex, we should be able to win this game. Side Wave out damaging Poison Jab Lapras, able to get an endgame sweep there. GG there to our opponent. Next matchup, a Gastrodon into our Guzzlord. Very neutral matchup here, but obviously we do have a slightly higher damage fast move than them, but they have a lot more efficient charge moves than us. Crunch is still a very powerful attack, though. We're going to throw it, try to get a defense drop, or potentially get a shield from them. Let's see what they do. They actually let it go, which honestly is also just as fine, because once this Gastrodon is out of the way, I know our Shadow Galarian Weezing should be in a pretty good spot. Earth Power does end up getting a shield from us here. Now all they can reach is a Body Slam, which means our Guzzlord is not going to have to throw energy. We can easily survive this charge move and come out with a Crunch. The big question, though, is what do they have in the back? Why did they stay in that lead matchup? They have a Galarian Weezing of their own. I instantly swap out to my own Weezing because I do not want to give a farm down, and I want to keep that energy in the backline just in case I need it. In comes a Sludge. Do they shield? No, they let it go. It does a massive amount of damage, and we won CMP, so that is very critical information to now know. In comes a Sludge against us. I can't shield. I'm already down one shield this game, but I'm very happy that I landed that charge move because honestly, at this point, they are very close to range where a Sludge or a Crunch rather on my Guzzlord could knock them out. In comes a Brutal Swing bait. We draw a shield from our opponent, and at this point, they're going to reach back-to-back Brutal Swings before I can reach another one, so our Weezing has done what it needs to do. We have neutralized their own Weezing as much as possible. We still have our Guzzlord, we have our Lapras as well, which will take a Sludge, but can Sidewave this Pokemon all the way down and still potentially win this endgame matchup. In comes our Lapras here. Unfortunately, we do get denied one turn of Sidewave damage and energy, but that shouldn't matter too much at this point. That is only one Sidewave. What would that even end up changing the backline? I have no idea at this point. In comes a Guzzlord here, so honestly this Pokemon is going to resist our fast move pressure, but our Ice Beams, if they end up landing, will do a critical amount of damage to this Pokemon. We also have energy on our Guzzlord, so this endgame will be very interesting. They have some energy and a lot of HP left over on that Weezing. I know I don't want to take Fairy Winds, and I know that our Psywaves are doing nothing here, but I need to draw this final shield if I want any chance to win this game. In comes our Sparkling Aria. This will knock them out here if they do end up letting it go. And because at this point our Guzzlord does have energy, they try to call the combo play, but I do not swap out. They throw energy into our Lapras, and now I need to Dragon Tail down this Pokemon. And if I ever see that Weezing come in, I need to instantly go for the Crunch to knock them out before these Fairy Winds add up anymore. Crunch is being thrown. This should get the knockout against the Weezing, but can we knock them out in one Dragon Tail? One is not enough. It's going to be a tie here. Simultaneous KO, so GG there to our opponent. Very cool game. Ending in a tie. I guess you love to see it. Next matchup, we're going to see a Claydol in the lead. A very neutral matchup here. You might expect it to be good for the Dark type into the Psychic type, but because we're pretty slow charging to our charge moves, and because the opponent could debuff with Rock Tomb or land an Ice Beam, it's not as good as you might think. With that said, I think they just caught here on their Cradily. Very interesting play, saying, honestly, I think Cradily is worse against our Guzzlord than that Claydol would be. They do have Rock Tomb, which can debuff us, but I can just build up energy here, and now that they've thrown the Rock Tomb instantly, I can now swap into our Shadow Galarian Weezing, go for a Sludge instantly, and either draw a shield or knock out this Cradily. I would expect a no shield, saying if they do shield this up, I can get both shields from them before I'm even pressured to shield a single time. Down goes the Cradily. We have a Crunch loaded on our Guzzlord in the backline, and in comes a charge move here from this Claydol. I'm thinking though, since they throw in bad timing, I can reach 2 charge attacks against them before they can reach a second one against us, and because our Weezing is able to survive the Mud Slaps, I can get to 2 Brutal Swings before they're able to knock us out. If I do draw a shield here, then that's also very good for us to see, and we do draw a shield on that first attack. If they shield this next Brutal Swing at this point, then I can go for a combo play with our Crunch. What are they going to do? Brutal Swing gets a shield. We have the Crunch loaded. They do not call the combo play. Crunch will knock out this Claydol. It is a much harder hitting move than Brutal Swing would be, so having Crunch on our Guzzlord, absolutely critical here. We see in the backline, it is going to be a Weezing, and we do give him a huge farm down, but I think at this point, our Lapras is just good enough to win this game. Psywave is super effective against this Poison-type Pokemon. Our opponent realizes that, and they end up top lefting. All right, next matchup, we're going to see a Golisopod in the lead. Honestly, a little bit of a tricky lead matchup just because I know it does have access to X-Scissor, and they do outpace us to charge moves. With that said, in the Zero Shield matchup, if they try to get a little bit greedy and they no-shield a charge move, and if I land a Crunch against them, then I can knock them out before they get to a second charge move. In comes the Crunch here from our Guzzlord. Do they shield or will they let this go, hoping for a Dragon Claw or potentially a Brutal Swing? Crunch lands, and now it can do one more Dragon Tail, knock out the Golisopod, expending only one shield, which now means our Guzzlord is at full HP, and we are able to save it in the backline. We end up baiting out a Fortress, and we see an Azumarill in the backline as well. I have 2 very good answers to Azu, so I didn't want to just completely sack our Guzzlord, and it's a very good thing we still have Guzzlord around, because that is our best answer to this Fortress. In comes another Brutal Swing. This will likely either draw a shield or get a decent amount of chip damage against this Pokemon. They do opt to shield, and at this point, I can reach another one here. They did CMP us on this attack, so this Brutal Swing will be able to get a bit of damage off before I just let my Weezing go. I know Lapras is good enough here in the backline into that Azumarill, and because we still have energy on our Guzzlord, this matchup is going to be so tricky for our opponent to try to win. They make a nice undercharge here against our Shadow Galarian Weezing, but it's not going to be enough here because our Guzzlord still has energy. We don't get one-shot by anything from this Fortress. This Crunch should be more than enough to either draw the shield or get the KO against this Fortress. Crunch gets the shield here from our opponent. In the backline, going to see the Azumarill, and they see our Lapras, and they instantly top left, knowing that game is over. All right, next game. Gonna see a Guzzlord into a Shadow Pidgeot in the lead. Very interesting matchup here. Haven't seen too many Shadow Pidgeots this season, but it did get that Air Cutter buff, meaning it has a very cheap move which can spam out and potentially boost their attack stat. Dragon Claw gonna be thrown here after 5 Dragon Tails. It could be a crunch. Our opponent respects that, and they do shield at the attack. At this point, I think that this Pidgeot could be a bit annoying if I don't start using shields on my Guzzlord, so I'm gonna shield up the next attack here, go for a Dragon Claw on CMP. They do get the boost, which is even more annoying, so at this point, I'm very happy that I can shield this up, go for the Dragon Claw, either knock them out or draw the second shield from this Pokemon. Dragon Claw being thrown, what is our opponent going to do at this point? Likely they will let this go, but they could shield and farm down if they wanted. They do let it go, and that is not what you want to see here, the Shadow Fortress in the backline. A massive core breaker to our Shadow, Galarian, Weezing, and Lapras that we have. With that said, this game is not 100% over. There's always a chance we could have overheat on our Weezing, right? They don't know that, so maybe I can bait a shield here. Maybe I can also call a bait. If they bait us with Rock Tomb, if I can get a shield with a potential overheat bait, then there is still a chance for us to win the game with Lapras in the backline, depending on what their final Pokemon is going to be. Brutal Swing comes through. Our opponent at this point could shield us up. If they do, then that could be good for us. We do get a shield, and in comes another Brutal Swing here against this Fortress. With that said, our Lapras will have to be debuffed when I bring it in, because I cannot let this full farm down happen. I have to bring it in, go for a charge move against them when I can, and see what they have in the back. In comes a charge move here from this Fortress. It will be shielded. The Rock Tomb does debuff our attack stat, and because our Sparkling Aria is now reached, we can either get the knockout here or come very close to it. It should knock out even after that debuff, though. Shadow Fortress not quite bulky enough to survive that charge attack. In the backline, going to be a Shadow Kanto Marowak. This is going to be such a close endgame matchup. I know at this point that I have Ice Beam. This could knock them out, but I'm debuffed. I don't think it's quite enough damage here. Our opponent will be able to get to the Rock Slide right now, but they're not throwing. They think I have a catch available. They try to call a catch or something. They try to go for a full farm down. I'll take it, I guess. GG's there to our opponent. In the next match here, I guess the Pangoro in the lead, a much worse lead matchup than I'd like to see, because we are actually ABA weak to fighting type Pokemon, but as you can see, this matchup's not that bad for Guzzlord. Even if they go for Night Slash baits, our Dragon Tails are adding up so much against them. Night Slash will end up getting a shield, so a good bait by them, and also a good catch on this Swallow. With that said, Lapras is a fantastic answer to this Pokemon, and I have my Weezing in the backline for that Pangoro, so I'm going to be able to align my Fairy type into that Dark and Fighting type Pokemon. My Lapras as well should be able to overfarm, maybe even get a Charge Move against that Pangoro to neutralize the fact that they did catch and waste all of our energy. Sludge does come through. It's not quite enough to two-shot, though, because Lapras is so bulky, and Swallow is not exactly an offensive Pokemon. In comes a Charge Move here from Swallow. Just another Sludge. We can survive that. We're at back-to-back Sparkling Aria, so at this point, go for the Charge Move. A bit of a misplay by me. I overfarmed a bit past 100 energy, but that is still fine, because we can go for one here, and then one against the Pangoro when it comes back in. They don't snipe us down with energy, which means now this should draw a shield from them. They're probably going to try to build it to back-to-back charge moves, and we will draw a shield against this Pangoro. Now that shields are down, and because our Lapras is just barely able to reach another Sparkling Aria, we're in a very good position here where Guzzlord is going to avoid this Pokemon. Weezing can absorb all the energy, maybe even go for Sludge or Brutal Swing against whatever else is in the backline. Our opponent sees our Weezing, they swap out here to Talonflame, and we have Sludge ready to go. With that said, our Guzzlord is still a very strong answer to this Talonflame. I didn't really need to throw this charge attack, but I want to guarantee this game right now, saying I know that Pangoro is going to get quite a bit of energy from our Guzzlord, and I want to make sure at this point that we can knock this Talonflame out with our own Dragon-type Pokemon. In comes a Dragon Claw now against this Talonflame. This will knock them out, and the Pangoro will be forced into throwing a close combat against our Guzzlord if they want to knock us out. By the time they do that, though, they're not going to have enough energy to get double Night Slash, and the only way they would knock out our Weezing with double Night Slash is if they get a boost as well, and since they don't have the energy here, their defense is so dropped, they're only going to reach this one charge attack. Night Slash is not going to do it, and we're able to survive it. But our opponent does actually get the attack boost. Of course they do. Why not? We're still able to win that game, though, and take it there. Of course, on our final match to decide if we could get rank 1 in the world, it is against world champion Yakai. This match is going to be, honestly, a little RPS from what I can tell, though. This Guzzlord does not want to see our Weezing. That Jellicent did not want to see our Guzzlord. I have no idea what's in the back, but at this point, I have so much energy on our Weezing. We actually take a Sludge Bomb there, so an interesting moveset by Yakai. He's obviously running a bit of a different moveset than I'm running right now. In comes a Farm Down. What is going to try to absorb all of the energy from our Weezing? That Jellicent would take super effective damage here from our Brutal Swings. They actually do come back in with the Ghost-type Pokemon, so in comes Brutal Swing number 1, in comes Brutal Swing number 2, and potentially even a Brutal Swing number 3. The first one did not get shielded. The second one, will it get a shield here, or will it be let go? In comes a Brutal Swing. It doesn't quite get a knockout, so our opponent does let it go, and in comes yet another Brutal Swing here against this Jellicent. At this point, I know if they let us move through, then my team should be able to win, and I try to go for a Dragon Tail Snipe Down, but our opponent sees it coming a mile away. They come in with a Galarian Weezing. Although this is not a good matchup, we should still be in a very good spot, because our Lapras at this point, as long as I either get a shield or land 2 crunches against this Weezing, I should be able to Psywave down and win in this game. we're able to reach another crunch here, which is either going to do a massive amount of damage here to Weezing, or potentially get their final shield, which is all we need for Lapras to win this game. They end up no-shielding it. At this point, I know we have this game in the bag. Psywave is super effective against Weezing. I'm going to save my shield at this point for either potential overheat, or if they end up having Shadow Ball on their Jellicent, I want to shield that, but at this point, it does not matter. We have won the game. We have secured the 5-0 here, and with that, we were undefeated on the day. I guess aside from that tie, if you count that as a defeat. With that said, we were able to go 9-0-1 with this team and reach 29-26, the highest elo in the world currently. And because of that, it's the first time in, I honestly don't know how many years, it's probably 2 or 3 years since I was able to reach rank 1 on the GBL leaderboards. As I said, doing this live on stream is so tricky to do. People always know your team. People always know your plays. And because of that, it makes it so you're always fighting an uphill battle. And not to even mention how bad the queue times were. I only have a couple, like 2 sets in this video because we end up having queue times that are like 30 minutes long between battles. That is so hard to just entertain people, I guess, for 30 minutes at a time between your GBL battles. So yeah, getting rank 1, not really something I thought I'd be able to do here on stream and make a video about, but I'm so happy I was able to do it here today, and we are getting so close to Legend, so hopefully in the next couple of days here, I'll be able to reach that as well. So keep that in mind, and please make sure to subscribe if you do want to watch that video here in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.